Well, it's been a while since I've made a video. I decided that I'm going to make a video regarding OnlyFans and the recent announcement that they've made that they're going to effectively ban the content that has made them all their money and set them apart from other content creator apps and websites as of announced on August 19th, 2021. On 8/19/2021, OnlyFans released a statement in which they explained that they would be banning explicit adult material, which is effectively what's made OnlyFans famous and made them all their money as of 10/1/21. This, of course, is pretty much the only content that sets them apart from other content creators and is a very strange decision on their part, as it's really their bread and butter of their income. They claim that it's the result of payment processors such as MasterCard and Visa no longer wanting to be a part of making payments for adult explicit material, and that it's their fault that they've spurred this action. But I'm going to link articles in the description regarding the announcement that happened on 8/19 in the comments section. OnlyFans is claiming that the payment processors will refuse to process payments for this explicit content, which is a little difficult to believe because OnlyFans earned something like 1.5 billion euros from adult explicit material in 2020. This was most likely a result of the pandemic, but let's first begin with how OnlyFans began. It was founded by a British-based family called the Stokely family. They were effectively looking for a way to create a safe platform for content creators who are looking to make adult explicit material without doing things like private Snapchats and things like that under the table to make their money. It became explosively successful during the pandemic, most likely due to the isolation that people were feeling and the fact that it allowed people to have actual communication with the content creators after they had paid the entrance fee to get in. They were able to chat with the content creators and have one-on-one content, which people have said, helped people get through the loneliness factor of the pandemic lockdown, as well as helped some people who had intimacy issues. That was hypothesized by certain individuals. However, the owners, the Britain-based Stokely family, ultimately ended up selling OnlyFans to a United States corporation, which is the largest adult content owning corporation. They own sites such as Pornhub. It's owned by a guy whose name I can barely pronounce, Leonid Radvinsky. He's managed to stay in the background. He's allowed the Stokely family to remain up front, and they still make a significant amount of money from this. But it, like I said, grew in popularity during the pandemic, and it allows the subscribers to pay for access ahead of time, then access the creators' explicit videos and posts for a set fee that was limited by OnlyFans through their user agreement, which will come in importance later when I discuss the legal ramifications and legal potentials for the creators given this unannounced and unprepared change that OnlyFans affected without giving them any warning or any heads up or any input into the issue. So OnlyFans, as I said, had pulled in something like 1.5 billion euros in 2020 and paid out 950 million of that to their creators, keeping only 20% for themselves. So it is a fairly lucrative business for the people who chose to make it their full-time business, in comparison to places like YouTube and stuff. However, OnlyFans, it should be noted, doesn't promote their content creators in any way. There's no search function. There's no promotion, so the creators have to do everything themselves. Self-promotion, which is difficult because they're banned in places like YouTube, Twitter, although Twitter doesn't really enforce the ban, Instagram, which also has been known to not really enforce the ban, so they have to go out and promote themselves. They also have to provide all their own background materials, set design, lighting, videography, editing. So, I mean, it's a significant input for them in the beginning. But there have been people, particularly in the top 1%, who've been able to make as much as $1 million in one day. Bella Thorne, who was actually generated a bit of controversy with her post, made $1 million, and some of the top 1% can make as much as $100,000 a month doing OnlyFans. So a lot of people have chosen this as their primary profession because it exploded so well and they invested a lot of money and time. And what a lot of people don't consider is they've also kind of put their ability to get a regular job at stake because they have now gone public as an adult explicit material creator on the web, which can seriously limit their ability to obtain a regular job if during the interview it's pointed out, hey, don't you have an OnlyFans page that, shows explicit adult material of you? I mean, that's going to make it difficult to get a regular job. So these people who've chosen OnlyFans as their primary source of income are now left in a position where they don't know if they're going to be able to get their previously created material down from OnlyFans so that they can possibly take it to another site that will permit them to use it. They weren't given any warning, as I said, that this was going to happen or any input into a potential solution like, say, accepting Bitcoin or other e-currency as payment so that it wouldn't have to run through these payment processors. And it should be pointed out that Pornhub faced a similar issue with payment processors in the past because they're being accused of having revenge porn on their website, meaning that there were individuals who weren't certified as having been consensual users of Pornhub, where it was hypothesized that their images were loaded by ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends, using the videotape as a form of revenge. So rather than dump all their material, like OnlyFans has decided to do, Pornhub instead went in and scrubbed hundreds of thousands of unverified videos, which was an option OnlyFans could have used as well. Now, additionally, I'm going to link in the description below a link to a fellow YouTuber, Cruel World Happy Mind, who did an extensive background deep dive into OnlyFans prior to this ban and actually interviewed a top-tier creator who makes in the top 0.4%, and it will show what they actually go through, how they earn, and how difficult it's been. The articles that I linked below will explain precisely what OnlyFans is using as the excuse for the ban, as well as what some of the top creators have said they would have liked to have seen and what their concerns are moving forward. So unlike Pornhub, where you can just get around someone's page by just browsing through the pornography, on OnlyFans you had to pay upfront to see. But OnlyFans wasn't without their own share of issues themselves prior to this ban. As I mentioned, Bella Thorne had gotten herself in trouble because she used a clickbait title. Her and other famous people and influencers decided they were going to use OnlyFans to try and make a lot of money. And Bella Thorne, in fact, made $1 million by putting a title up that implied there was going to be nude photographs of her. And when people clicked and paid the $200, they didn't get what was promised, which was kind of considered to be not quite above boards. In addition, another individual put up pictures of herself dressed as a child on her OnlyFans site, which was considered dicey because it skated along the lines of child pornography. So that was a serious issue as well. But OnlyFans effectively worked its way through it and continued to allow this content for a while beyond these issues coming up. But then all of a sudden on August 19th, it just announced we're going to ban everything. Now, the scandals that I had mentioned, they didn't quite deliver as promised. The Bella Thorne made like $1 million off of that. The other person, Gabby DiMartino, who had dressed as a child, she had made a considerable amount of money dressing up as a child, but there wasn't any serious blowback or anything that would have stopped OnlyFans from being able to continue on. They had introduced limitations as to how much people could charge as a result of this Bella Thorne instance, because she had charged $200 for what was supposed to be naked pictures of her, and they didn't deliver. So they put a ban and a cap on how much someone could charge and how much they would pay out, which implies that the user agreement took into consideration that there would be adult explicit material. Now, as an attorney, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. As you guys know, I have not been over the user agreement at OnlyFans because I don't know how I could see it without actually subscribing for my own page, which would obviously be severely detrimental to me as an attorney. But I wanted to go over the Some of the issues that they also had is scandals, as well as what OnlyFans could have done in lieu of this drastic of a measure, because they've already launched a non-adult explicit website previous to announcing the ban, and it had exactly 0 subscribers. So it's fair to say that this is going to be the end of OnlyFans by banning adult explicit material. But like I mentioned, the high-end creators are concerned because there are other sites they can go to, but their concern is all the money and all the time and all the resources they've invested in making these previous videos. They're not aware if the user agreement permits them to download them and keep them so that they can transfer them to another platform. So there was also a bit of a scandal with OnlyFans because they had an affiliate program where instead of actually making your own OnlyFans videos, if you could get someone to sign up with your affiliate link, you would make 5% of everything they made for the rest of their lives. This was frowned upon because it was basically looked at as a pyramid scheme, except instead of just pushing someone into, selling a non-existent product, you were pushing someone into the adult film industry, which, as I said, could seriously ruin their reputation. So that burned them with a little bit of scandal and had TikTok ban OnlyFans promotion on their platform, and they strictly enforced that. So, as I said, for a video on the true background of the rise of OnlyFans and the things that I'm not really going to get into here, look down below in the comments section. I want to more deal with what the legal issues are here. Now, given that the creators had to sink in all their own time, all their own money, they had to do all self-promotion, lightings, background, scripting, screening, casting, video equipment, editing, and put up regular posts, not to mention they had to do their own bookkeeping, keep track of their own IRS and tax filings. I mean, this literally became full-time jobs for these people, and as I said, by choosing this line of work through OnlyFans and relying on being permitted to create this content, they may have seriously harmed their ability to earn in the future in the regular job market. In the law, in common law contract theory, there's what's called detrimental reliance, which means if I make you a promise, an oral promise that I'm going to allow you to do something, and in relying on that promise, you invest time, money, and harm your reputation, and then I pull out and don't deliver on the promise, legally you can come after me for what you've lost. Now, obviously, proving the damages related to whether or not they can work in the regular field going forward would be difficult, but it does give rise to a potential, and I can only say potential because, as I said, I haven't seen what the latest user agreement or the original content creators user agreement, because my understanding is as these scandals between Bella Thorne and the potential child porn and the affiliate program, the user agreement was modified as it went. But my understanding is they were all implicit in the fact that adult explicit material was going to be allowed. That creates a potential legal avenue for these content creators to go after OnlyFans for what they've lost in time, money, and potential harm to their reputations by using this as their primary source of income and choosing this and now having that ripped out from underneath them because they learned of this October 1 ban on adult explicit material from the August 19th article that, multiple copies I'm going to link below, but that was when OnlyFans announced this. They gave no heads up to their content creators, particularly not their top percentage content creators who are really the ones making OnlyFans all this money. I mean, 1.5 billion euros in the year 2020 is no small amount of change, and OnlyFans was looking to reach $1 billion evaluation for its company. Now that they've announced this ban, that's going to be highly unlikely. It looks like OnlyFans is going to just vanish. So these content creators may have a legal ramification against OnlyFans, and there's 2 ways they could go about it. One way would be to each individually bring a lawsuit against OnlyFans. Whether it be federal because of diversity jurisdiction, they'd have to prove more than $75,000 as in case and controversy, and they can each individually sue OnlyFans. The smarter way would actually be to get a lawyer and combine all their efforts, since they've all been harmed by the same conduct by OnlyFans. They've all been harmed in the same manner. They line up perfectly for what's called a class action lawsuit, which would actually, while netting them less money, since a class action lawsuit typically earns the attorney the most money, they would have one content creator who would be able to accurately represent the whole of the class of content creators. The amount of the settlement in a class action lawsuit is usually significantly higher, and it may force OnlyFans to rethink this ban if they were to consult an attorney, bring them a copy of these user agreements, and get a class in place and file a suit. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily possible, but it may push OnlyFans, if that is a possibility for these creators, to the table to consider an alternative to this all-out ban. While the articles make it clear that OnlyFans is being honest that it's the payment processors, which I find difficult because, as I said, $1.5 billion in revenue in 2020, each one of those payment processors was taking a percentage of that, and they knew precisely what the content was that they were taking that percentage on. So for them to all of a sudden now, well after any of these scandals had happened, decide that they're no longer willing to accept explicit material, particularly when Pornhub is still actively operating with the same corporate ownership, is a little difficult to swallow. Plus, there were alternative solutions to this. OnlyFans could have done like Pornhub and gone on and made sure that all of its videos were by certified users and there was no revenge porn or actual child porn being leaked onto their site, which if you watch the other YouTubers' video, you'll see during the interview with the top OnlyFans creator that it is actually very difficult to get anything like child pornography, true child pornography, up onto OnlyFans without getting flagged. Their bots were doing a good job of routing through. It was just whether or not every person participating in the videos was in fact a certified user. But Pornhub was willing to strip down hundreds of thousands of videos to keep themselves up and running. I don't see why OnlyFans wouldn't have done the same. Additionally, they could have just said to these payment processors, forget it, we'll just go forward with cryptocurrency as our form of payment, because we all know cryptocurrency is free from all of that type of regulation and red tape. Now, whether or not, the users of OnlyFans, which there's a significant number, but I suspect after October 1st that number is going to drop, because as I mentioned, they had what's called an SFW, which is nudity only but no explicit adult material site that they had launched before announcing the ban, and they couldn't get a single subscriber to it. So it's very difficult to believe that OnlyFans is going to start having cooking videos and things like that and enjoy the same success that they've been enjoying. It's hard to understand why they've made this decision, but from a legal standpoint, I would be doing a disservice to the community and to everyone, particularly the OnlyFans creators, if I didn't say that they should probably take their user agreement and consult with a local attorney and see if they have some form of legal recourse to either actually recover damages for what they've done to their own reputation in detrimentally relying on this promise that OnlyFans would support this content and continue to permit it, again, depending on what's in those user agreements, or grouping together as a class, finding a lawyer who would represent them in such a way, and forcing OnlyFans' hand to reconsider this. And the clock's ticking because, as I said, this goes into effect on October 1st. So that's why I've kind of hurried to get this video out, and I'm relying on other articles and another YouTuber's video to back up my point. But I thought it would be an interesting topic. I haven't made a video in a while, as nothing's really happened in the Gates case, other than obviously what you've heard about in the news, but nothing definitive. There's been no arrest, there's been no indictment, there's been no mention. Giuliani has been forced to lose his law license and go on to that website where you pay him to make statements, which is pretty funny, but not worth a video. So I've been looking through the news and combing through the news for something that has enough interest to make a legal video, and I thought this would do it. So as always, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you watching the video, especially if you watched all the way through. Please feel free to leave comments, questions, concerns, anything at the bottom, but I'm not taking a position one way or the other, whether I think OnlyFans is right in this position or the content creators, though I will say, as somewhat of a content creator on YouTube, I would be a little distraught if all of a sudden YouTube said, well, you can't talk about anything that's legal or in the news in your videos. I would feel like I had essentially been duped by what was offered to me in my user agreement and then what I was actually provided after relying upon it and investing time and energy and my own video equipment and recording equipment and editing equipment into this endeavor. So I can feel for the content creators, and especially since they have, as I said, destroyed their personal reputation. So, as always, contents, questions, whatever, are appreciated and will go answered. Everybody, I hope you're staying safe and healthy, especially during this explosion of COVID. And I'll be back again with another video as soon as something interesting happens in the legal world. But I thought this was worthy of my time. Thanks. Take care. Okay, so it would appear that an update video is already required because in the 48 hours that I was editing and putting together the main video, it appears that OnlyFans have released a very vague tweet implying that they're not going to enforce the ban after all. The tweet is in fact so vague that it's questionable whether they can really be held to it, that it doesn't enforce the ban and that they're not going to enforce the ban. Is it because of the legal issues that I raised in the earlier main video? It's so vague it's impossible to even tell. However, for an article discussing and showing the actual tweet and discussing the content creator's reaction to the tweet and whether or not it's actually going to stop the ban, please see the description box where I've also linked it under update, where I had linked the aforementioned video and earlier articles discussing the original ban. However, this new tweet came out less than a week after the original tweet with the ban on August 25th, just mere 48 hours ago. So, as always, questions, comments, concerns, corrections are always welcome, but this is obviously a matter which I'm going to have to follow closely, as it seems to be a quickly evolving issue legally, and whether they're going to be held to this new statement that they're not going to enforce the ban, and whether that is in fact what this tweet says. Thanks. Take care all.